Hello, my name's Carol Burgess. I'm a teacher here at Moseley School, and today we're going to be discussing issues surrounding personal hygiene and how to teach it in the most effective way. Here at Moseley we teach discrete PSHE lessons on what's called enrichment days. We believe actually that it's every professional's responsibility to look out for the health and well-being and the safety of every young child.
Here at Moseley, all Year 7 pupils take part in something called the Enterprise. The Enterprise is an integrated curriculum where lots and lots of subjects are all taught through one teacher for 14 hours in the week. And during this, that includes doing personal health and PHSE. With the Year 7 pupils in the Enterprise, we have to deal with things very sensitively and in a far more basic way than what we would do with the Year 8s and Year 9s. With Year 7s, one of the tasks we do is if you had to fill a suitcase, what would be the most important things to take with you in a suitcase if you were going on holiday? What 5 things would you pick? And we get all sorts of strange answers like you'd have to take your PSP and things like that. But then we make them think about, okay, what do we need to do to stay healthy? What sort of things do you actually really need? What I found was, after a good group discussion, we finally got around to the idea that having good hygienic products in the suitcase would be very advisable, including deodorant and a toothbrush and toothpaste, etc.
Personal hygiene should feature as part of a planned progressive programme of PSHE education that starts early on in primary school and builds progressively through the key stages into the secondary curriculum. Currently in the primary curriculum there are opportunities for planning and teaching about personal hygiene at Key Stage 1 and Key Stage 2 within the area of healthy and safe lifestyles. When we move to the proposed new primary curriculum, the opportunities for teaching and learning about personal hygiene will feature in the area of learning called physical development, health and well-being. In the secondary curriculum, there are opportunities for teaching and learning about personal hygiene within the personal well-being programme of study, and specifically within the key concept, healthy lifestyles.
We as a school have to put systems in place that allow children and any problems that arise with students to be catered for in a professional, systematic way. So from my experience, I think the best way of dealing with it is really to develop those relationships with the students. But I think it's very important not to just look at it being one subject area's problem. It has to be a whole school approach with a very strong, for example, pastoral system.
But as a head of year, I would discuss personal hygiene with my tutors in pastoral meetings, and I would expect them to be picking up on any problems and concerns with their tutor group and discussing issues with their tutor group in tutor time.
As a PE teacher, the changing rooms are obviously a key part of our department, which do get very smelly. So often we will go in and encourage students to follow basic personal hygiene things. Sometimes we'll speak to students individually if we have to. Sometimes we speak to the group and just remind them that as they're getting older, their bodies change and they may notice changes, so to be aware and take action.
Ask students to consider what are the important messages that need to be conveyed to primary school children around personal hygiene, and particularly the importance of regular and frequent washing as they approach and get into puberty. Secondary school pupils might design a poster for primary school children, or actually plan a session which they could take and deliver to the primary school children themselves.
If I am comfortable with the student and I've had a relationship with them for a long time, I would simply take the student aside and say to them that, you know, in today's lesson there was a smell. It doesn't usually happen, it's not something that always happens, they may need to address it. Make sure you bring a can of deodorant to school, preferably roll-on. If it was a Year 7 student I've only just met, I would take them aside and ask them if they know about body odour and smells, and try and gauge it that way rather than going straight into saying, right, there was this smell, we need to deal with it. I would pick up on the fact that there was a smell in the classroom. Did they notice it? what would they do to advise someone who had that smell? How would they advise them to get rid of that smell? And then perhaps say to them, well, we need to then go down those lines for you in order to rectify a situation that has occurred.
There's been an occasion before where a Year 11 student has really affected the rest of the class, and people were complaining about the smell, but doing it in a very sort of quiet way. They didn't want to upset the student. And I eventually spoke to the student's best friend and said, look, can you just have a word with them and see if there's a problem, if it's a financial issue, it's because if they really can't afford to buy deodorant, or are they not washing properly, just have a chat with them and see if you can try to make a difference. And she did go away and chat to the student, and I felt that I'd made a difference without embarrassing the student directly, and it did make a difference.
It's important to reiterate that we don't plan special targeted interventions on personal hygiene because there's a problem with an individual in our class. If somebody in our class has got a problem with body odour, extreme body odour for example, that could be indicative of neglect, and that needs to be managed very carefully by the school.
If you don't tackle it, it may be a child protection issue. You need to tackle it and make sure that it isn't, so that the child isn't being abused at home, that the child isn't being neglected at home. The major issue for not tackling it is that in the student's future, they're obviously going to be looking for a job. We all know personal hygiene is something that is going to be looked upon favourably when employing someone. So we'll be doing the students a massive disservice by not dealing with it in secondary school and pointing out that going on in life, in terms of relationship, job, it's going to reflect badly on you.
In some cases, I think students deal with it themselves. Their friends might have a word with them or hint heavily. In other cases, I think we as staff have to weigh up whether or not we speak to a child, because sometimes their feelings can be so hurt by it, it actually causes more problems in the long run. However, weighing things up, I think it is better to try and speak to them to resolve the situation before they perhaps become a target for other students picking on them.
Personal hygiene and issues relating to PSHE is all part of that Every Child Matters agenda. It's all stuff that young people are going to need when they leave school. It's not about assessing, giving them a GCSE. It's about equipping those young people with the knowledge and understanding that are going to affect decisions that they make throughout the rest of their lives, okay? So it's about informing and equipping young people, and that I think is the most essential thing that we as educators can do.